Welcome to this episode of Craft and Cook Show. A bit on the run. We've just had a morning at the warehouse doing a live show and getting organised for workshops this weekend. And then I said to Kate, let's go do the cook bit of the Craft and Cook Show now and the other bit Thursday, or in a couple of days' time from when we film this. Because the great thing about the cake that we're going to do today is you can freeze it. So we are going to make, excuse me, together a pecan apple crumble cake. Yum, yum, yum. And then I'm going to freeze it. And we're going to use it for a workshop on Sunday that Maria Waters is teaching. And it's a beautiful moist cake as well, so you don't have to worry about it drying out, even if you do keep it in a container for a couple of days. So, I love cooking. You know, I used to sew for de-stress. Now I cook. Because sometimes work can get a bit stressful. But that's alright. We're going to need, at some stage, Kate, an extension cord somewhere in this house. Is there one in my office? Maybe. We moved my office home, and it's just we've just displaced because we were going to film here a live show yesterday, and we discovered we do not have enough internet, whatever speed or whatever to do it. So we've got stuff at the studio and stuff at home, but you know I'd rather be home where I can cook and sew at the same time. Anyway, this cake recipe is Mum's, another one of Pam's, and it is just yummy. It's another one that she found probably in a Weekly Times a long time ago. I would have been still at home as a teenager. And you know, she tweaks things, she messes with things. So slowly it becomes a Pan recipe. Anyway, there's quite a few ingredients. I have not put off, but I've sort of saved this recipe till we're all well established in the Craft and Cook Show. Even though there's a lot of ingredients, make 2 or 3 at a time if you really want to for an upcoming event. A quilting day or something, and then pop them in the freezer and you've got them. We used to do this when we used to have quilt shows with our own cafes in the local church hall when I had my little shop, and we just bake and freeze for weeks and weeks, so we had enough of everything to run with. Right, so first thing that we need is 250 grams of butter. I don't care if it's salted or unsalted, it's not going to matter. Put that aside. You can see I've got a big chunk of butter because I'm going to make one with you now, and then I'll probably make another one tomorrow. So you know the drill, cut your butter up just into smaller pieces so it's easy to cream. One of the other reasons that this recipe is really moist, or one of the reasons, is because it's got heaps of sultanas and grated apple and brown sugar in it. So you know, all the important food groups. Right, plonk all that in there, and we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of caster sugar, and this is for the cake component. And then it has a ripple layer through the middle that we put brown sugar into. 3/4 of a cup. I am still getting used to my cups that Felicity gave me. This is a 3/4. And I love them, but I have to learn because they're all the same colour. We'll pop that in there. We're going to put in a teaspoon of vanilla. I did giggle. Rob's taken to cooking, and we were out shopping the other day, and he said, "Oh, vanilla is so expensive." And I said, "Why?" He'd been buying the really expensive Flash vanilla extract instead of just the normal vanilla essence. I thought all the things he was cooking with vanilla in were pretty strong. That would be why. So now I've got him on the straight and narrow and just with the essence. So this, I'll pop the hand beater out because, as I've said before, my big kitchen aid, there's not really a lot of room to use it and show you at the same time. And so we're going to beat this until it's nice and light and creamy and fluffy. I think my little beaters have just about had it. Need to get the big guns out again. Anyway, this is now nice and light and creamy, and we're up to adding in the eggs. So we're going to pop in 2 eggs. So far we've had 250 grams of butter and 3/4 of a cup of caster sugar, and we're going to pop 2 eggs in one at a time. If you are a member of A Quilter's Life, yes, the recipe with a photo will be up for you on the club. And if you're not a member of A Quilter's Life, this is how you join up. It's an online club and it's $10 a month, and you get lots of free patterns, information, blogs, vlogs, and specials, and you know, a few little extra quirky things that go with things from Craft and Cook Show and from Chandler's Cottage. So today there's a really good example of a salad that I'm doing with a couple of the ingredients that we've used in the cake, and that just goes up for our club members. And there's a spot on the Chandler's Cottage website on the homepage to join up too. Now let's pop these eggs in one at a time. If you wish, you can pop them into a jug and give them a little whisk first, but I like to just wing it and pop them in. So both of those are in. You'll see it's a little bit curdly, and that is fine because of the consistency of the butter and sugar mixture first and the eggs. It does come away a little bit, but it's nothing to be concerned about. And the next step, we are going to fold in some flour, alternatively with milk. Okay, let's add 1.5 cups of plain flour. We're going to sift it as it goes in. So I want to put in the bulk of my flour on the first round. So it's 1.5. There. So we'll pop that in, give it a really good shake and sieve it through, and then fold it through. Oh, this takes me back to all those classic cakes we used to do in high school. Who had a copy of Cookery the Australian Way? Kate?
I didn't have it.
She's a Cookery the Australian Way was my go-to book, and in fact I'm buying one for both my boys. So they've got all the basic recipes to go, but how many of those cakes and things was do the flour, then the milk, and back and forth. So I've popped in 1.5 cups of plain flour, and then I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of milk. Remember, your recipes are going to work a lot better with full cream milk if they're old traditional ones. So again, if you're like me and you've got the skinny milk in the fridge or something else, maybe add in with light milk a dollop of full fat yogurt or something if you've got it in the fridge, just so that you've got that, heaven forbid, fat content in there to get the cake to set up really nice. We also want 1/2 cup of self-raising flour. So now I'll pop that in, and also a teaspoon of bicarb. So it's really up to you how you want to alternate adding the ingredients. There, and a teaspoon of bicarb, which is just going to give it a little bit more oomph and texture. It does come up lovely, light and fluffy, even though it's quite a dense mix. So we'll fold this through. Now, this one today is called our Pecan apple crumble cake. But I think you will find that once you've had a go at it this way, you'd find lots of other combinations of things that you could pop through. For example, it could be a pear and walnut, so you can mix up your fruit. If you wanted to do some berries instead, you could do that with some slivered almonds. So there is room, like with a lot of Mum's recipes, to mess around with them, even though she gets cross with me. I do sometimes. You know that surprise pantry slice that we did. That was supposed to be an apricot and walnut slice. And we all know how versatile now that is, and if you haven't tried it yet, please do, because it is the be all and end all of easy slice recipes to use up all your leftover fruit and nuts that are in the cupboard. An early recipe, I think, Kate. Early Craft and Cook.
Which one, sorry?
The pantry slice that we did.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones.
It was one of the first ones. Alright, so that's all nicely mixed through. Now we are going to add some sultanas and some grated apple. I use a green apple because I like it nice and tart, and also it's got a really nice firm texture, as you would know. So I'll get those ready and then we can put them in. Apple's grated. I don't know why, but I got really nervous about grating the apple on camera with you watching, in case I got my knuckle or something. I don't know why. I don't have a problem with rotary cutters or anything doing all of that while we're filming, but I don't know, it was a bit strange. Anyway, I have grated one apple. Just put my hand up in there and get the rest out. I'll go this way on the other side so I don't cut myself. Pop that in there, and then I've also got 3/4 of a cup of sultanas. Again, you just want to keep the moisture really nice and moist, so the mixture nice and moist. So if you've got raisins instead, that would work as well. We'll just mix all this together. Look at that, yum yum. All right, this is ready to pop into the cake tin, but what we need to do first is make up our crumble mixture to put in the layers. So let's mix together 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and this really does need to be brown. I don't think there's any way around it. You'll see what I mean when it's cooked. Then we also want to add in some cinnamon. It says about 1/2 teaspoon on Mum's recipe, but you can be as liberal if you like, because we love cinnamon. Then we're going to add in a cup of finely chopped pecans. I'm just going to pour out what I think looks like about a cup, and we'll give them a chop. We could stick them in the chopper, in the whizzer, but I don't want them too fine. It's funny how you go through phases. Mum and I discovered a long time ago, probably just when there was an internet to play with, that we could buy beautiful Australian pecans from a farm in Queensland, and we used to buy them by the kilo or 2 kilos in a foil bag. And that's when we first learnt about storing your nuts in the fridge or the freezer to keep them fresh. So we did that for many years, and so we built up quite a repertoire of recipes that included pecans, including biscuits and slices, and Mum really perfected the old pecan pie. So again, I want them fine but not crumb or meal. I have to tell the story. Okay, there is a pecan story, and it's a little bit not rude, a little bit, you know. I was in America with the gorgeous Biffy Dewhurst. Biff used to own Lavender Cottage here, and we both kind of brought up our kids and ran our businesses from our homes at the same time, and we never saw each other because we had our shops open on the same days, which coincided with kindergarten. That's how long ago. And Biff came to America with me, and it was just so much fun because she had only ever been on a small plane to Queensland. I put her in an A380 to LA. Culture shock. She hopped on the plane and asked if I'd packed a lunch to get us to our seats towards the rear of the plane. Anyway, Biffy doesn't do sugar, and she managed without sugar for 3 days with severe jet lag, and it got the better of her on the last morning, and she said, I'm going down the back to the food hall to buy some fudge because there was this amazing American homemade fudge stand. And she went down and she said to the lady, "May I please have some pecan fudge?" And the lady looked at her and said, "I'm sorry." And Biffy said, "Can I have some of the pecan fudge?" And she ordered a couple of others. And she said, "Ma'am?" And so I heard her and I had to rush up behind her and said, "Biffy, it's pecan, it's not pecan." And she said, "Really?" And the lady said, "Yes, ma'am. A pecan is a can that you pee in when you go camping." Biff didn't know what to do with herself. I laughed the entire day because I knew that we all pronounce things differently. If you're in America, you say pecan. Here we say pecan. It's very funny. So I can't help myself. I hope Biff doesn't watch this. She'll kill me. All right, let's mix all of this up. Actually, there's seriously several good stories about that trip. Not all of them are what happens on show, stays on show. Not all. Right, that's all nicely mixed together, so that's ready to put the ripples in our cake. I have prepared earlier our cake tin, so just set that on top here. And we're going to pop in half of the cake mix. Look at that, it is very, very thick. But as I said, because we've got some bicarb in there as well as some self-raising flour, it's going to be light. And then on top of that, we've got the sultanas and the apple, so it's going to be extra moist. We'll spread this out in our tin. You know what, we'll use that little trick, Kate, where we run our spatula under warm water and then it just glides over the top so much easier.
A lot smoother.
Sorry?
It was a lot smoother.
You like that?
Yeah.
So we're going to pop half of this in over the top, and this is going to create our ripple cake effect inside. I'd say half, and I always say half in the middle and half on top. But if we want to get a little bit fancy when we plate this up later, we might just leave a little bit aside to pop on the plate as well. Let's pop the rest of this in.
Thick batter.
It is thick, isn't it? Don't you make me start to think I've forgotten to put something in. No, I know it's this thick. I think that's all of it. Oh my goodness, it's been a while since I made a cake like this. And my stomach's rumbling. Right. Spread that over. This has reminded me, I have a special cake in the cupboard, a fruit cake from Christmas still, that Carol sent me over from Auntie Betty's. If you're in England, you know what I'm talking about, right? Auntie Betty's up at York. Oh. And we didn't even open it for Easter.
What are you saving it for?
I don't know. What am I saving it for now? Maybe, just maybe, I'll open it on Mother's Day with Mum. That might be nice.
That would be.
There we go. Hey, any cake that comes in an octagonal shaped tin is in. I'll pour the rest of this on top. As I said, if you want to save a little bit, just a little bit to pop on the plate when you serve it up, or sprinkle around each serving plate you can. Just a little bit more. And there you have it. That is ready to go in. So my recipe says an hour. I haven't cooked this cake in this oven before. It's a little bit of a hot bod, so I might make it about 50 minutes at 180 degrees. And we'll see how it looks. I have used today, as you can see, a 20 centimeter tin, and I did put a little bit of paper in the bottom, even though that it's got a removable base. You can cook this just as well in a square tin if you've got one of those. A little bit easier to line if you want to. Lining is optional, but I just think if you really want a beautifully presented cake and then it's not too much stress to get it out of the pan all in one go, lining's a good idea. So I'm going to pop this in and we'll come back and see how it goes.
Alright, let's plan.
Sorry, I did stick pecan in my mouth. Cake is out of the oven. Ta-da! Look at that. It comes up all beautiful and toasty and brown. So this did take about 50 minutes in my oven. So just keep an eye on it the first time you make it, and you're aiming for 50 minutes to an hour. I have skewered, and she's out clean, so it's good to go. I hate this bit. Ready? Gotta turn it. We'll go out that way. Oh, phew. What a relief. We'll take the paper off. Put that aside. We'll pop that back down. Gee, it's a long time since I've done this as well. There we go. There we are. So I'm pretty happy with that. Are you happy with that? You're going to lose a few crumbs off the top. That looks pretty good. So as I said, you can add lots of different other things in if you want to, and you can use almonds or walnuts instead of the pecans, and you could use a pear instead of the apple, raisins instead of sultanas. So you can mess a little bit with it. But I know what you're saying, Lisa, please cut it so we can see the ripple effect in the middle. And of course it doesn't make sense to actually cut it while it's sitting on the cooling rack, but we're going to do it anyway. Kate, can you pass me over the leftover pecans, because this cake is literally going to fall apart. Now I know what you're saying, Lisa, don't cut the cake because you're going to use it for Maria's workshop, but it was just so easy to make again. I don't know why I haven't done it for so long, that I will make another one, and then I can freeze probably the rest of this one as well. So I'll lift that up. Look at that. Oh, nice. I think, look, I serve it hot or cold. I'll pop it on its side. If they hold that up for you, you can see where we've got this ripple effect of the pecans and the brown sugar and the cinnamon through the middle. Thank you. So as I said, if you wanted to make up some extra, you can do this and make it look all flash around your plate. You can then come through and add a dollop of cream or yogurt on top of that. So I'll put that there. And just to finish it off, we'll do the little pour of maple syrup over the top. So we'll move this out of the way. Clean all that out of the way, and then you can have a good look. That, my friends, would be a very, very nice morning tea to sit down to in a cafe, but you don't need to. You can do it yourself. So I hope you really enjoy it. Have a go at making it yourself. If you are in Quilter's Life, we'll put the recipe card up for you, and there's another little trick that I've just done with a salad with some sugared pecans as well. All right, enjoy. So I'm going to freeze the rest of this one, and I'm going to freeze another full one, and then we'll go off and do our little project for the week. All right, I'll see you in a bit. All right, for the second half of today's Craft and Cook show. Now, I am not going to try and convince you that I have come straight from baking that cake. In fact, we did that 2 days ago. Things kind of got in the way. So instead of me trying to put the same clothes on, the same hair, the same makeup, no, it's 2 days later. However, the yummy cake that we made is in the freezer now. It's ready for our workshops on the weekend. So that was just so good, having a really nice, beautiful cake like that, that's yummy and moist, that we could pop in the freezer, all done ready for Saturday. and I will defrost it the night before, and I'll warm it up a little bit in the microwave and serve it up with cream, and that'll be really good. For the second half of this Craft and Cook show, equally fast and chaotic, I'm going to show you how to make a bag with a little technique that I've called many different things over time. It is a flat assembly technique, which means it doesn't have a separate base or separate sides. It is just two panels that we put together with a couple of darts so that you get a 3D or a depth on the base. And it's a very, very versatile design. In fact, we used it 2-3 years ago now for a bag challenge for one of our exhibitions. So I will probably grab out that pattern that we had then and retweak it, and it will go up on a Quilters Live for the members of our Quilters Live club. But I'm also going to show you how to do it yourself today. Today I'm going to call it the platter and plate bag, because the easiest way to get the curves that you want for the sides of the bag and for the flap is to work with just a large side plate or a small dinner plate. And I have grabbed out of my cupboard a really nice big platter, and actually this is really handy because I'll use this to plate up my pecan apple crumble cake for Saturday's workshop. So let's have a look at how to do this. If you wanted to, you could create a template yourself on some template plastic or on some cardboard or something first, but I'm going to go straight onto my fabric and with a texture on the back, and you can just see how easy it is. I'm going to work today with my black flannel flowers from Under the Australian Sun, and I always wanted this style bag for myself made up in this fabric. We do have this one that I'm going to show you now. It's my overlocker. It's overlocker. Can you believe I just said overlocker? My Outlander bag, and it uses this technique. It's got a couple of little extra features in it you can see on the front, that flap and everything, but it is the same technique, and I always wanted one in black, so I'm going to make quite a plain one today. No features on the actual outside of the bag, but I am going to pop a little flap on the front. So I've chopped off my bolt. Look, probably about, let me just have a quick look for you. I did that so rough. That's about 45 centimeters. And what I've done here is just thought about the actual height that I want my bag to be. Pop this bolt away. I'm going to use some cream fans from Melba for the inside, and that will be constructed the same way. So let's turn this over. Can you tell? I am literally making this up as I go, and I sort of do it without thinking now, but it's actually really good that I explain what I'm doing to you, so I put a little bit more thought into it. So you can see from that red one that I want the sides of the bag to come down. Then we're going to pop in some darts for a base. So to get the curves that I want, I'm going to use my big platter. If you think about it, the actual curves on the platter are much bigger than a plate or a saucer or a teacup. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is the larger the curve that you want, the more open the curve that you want, the larger the plate you're going to need. My family can always tell when I have been designing, because all of the plates have got texture marks on them, but they do come out in the wash. So let's do down one side of my bag first. If this is sort of the center of the top of my bag, right up the top of the plate, then I want to come down a little bit here and start my curve from here. And this actually means that the top of my bag is going to be about that wide. So I'm going to draw one down here, and it'll be easy for you to see, about there. And I'm going to stop before the curve starts going in again. I want it to come down, because from here I'm going to take my bag down straight. All right, so that is going to be the top of my bag, and this is going to be about midway down the side of my bag. There are so many templates that you can buy to do this sort of thing, but essentially they are all circles or curves. So if you have a platter that you can use, you're not going to need a template. I'm going to grab my ruler now and I'm going to draw straight down. Just take that there, draw it straight down to the bottom, just so I've got something to work with, like that. Then I'm going to think about how wide I want the opening of my top of my bag to be. And to do that, I'm going to grab my plate, which is smaller, and have a look at what size flap I would like on my bag. So again, I'm thinking about using the plate to give me the curve on the top for the flap, like that. So let's just draw one on and see what it's going to look like. See that? So now you can get an idea. This is what my flap is going to look like that I'm putting on my bag, and then this is the side of my bag. So I think that's good. I'm really happy with that. I'm going to fold my fabric over now. Why? Because then I don't have to try and replicate it on the other side. So now I can work on a mirror image of what it's going to look like. So I think I kind of like that. That's pretty good. Okay, let's leave our fabric like that. I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and zoom straight up, and that gets rid of all of that out of the way. And then I will grab a nice sharp pair of scissors and we'll pop a couple of pins in, because remember, I've got a double thickness here. We're cutting the front and the back at the same time. So I don't want all of this to move while I'm cutting. If this is where my flap's going to sit, then from this point here, I can draw straight across, because that will actually be the top straight opening of my bag. Just here, like that. And I can turn and I can trim this bit off. Now I'll come back with my sharp scissors and I will just carefully cut that curve in. Like that. If I undo this now, I've got two pieces like that that are going to be the front and the back of my bag. If I was to sew these up now though, I have no base. So the last thing that you need to do is add some darts in that we can use to create a 3D base. This then depends on how big or how deep you want your base to be. So you need to always think in doubles. If I was to cut in 2 inches across here now, take off my seam allowance, takes it to 1.5, and that means the front and the back are going to give me a 3-inch deep base. I know I'm getting very serious with the maths, girls, but that's what it means. And I think that for today, that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab my ruler measurements here and draw across 2 inches, and I'm going to do that on each side. And then we can just turn our rule around, and that's too deep. And this one's too deep. Like that. Again, very carefully with the 2 layers together, cut those little squares out. If you're super frugal with your fabric, I know you're not going to throw those squares out. You're going to use them for paper pieced hexagons or something, but another little thing that you could do is fold them into the center and over again, top stitch it down, and then you can insert it as a little loop on one of the side seams on your bag. That would be really nice to do, so you can clip some scissors or your keys or a tassel or something onto there, depending on what you're using the bag for. So there we go. We have 2 panels cut out, ready for our bag, with no real template and no diagram and a pattern from me. Good to go. You can make this as small or as large as you like. So I've gone the platter and the plate today for my flat because I want a big handbag, or a reasonably sized handbag. If you want to do a little evening bag, and again, my Girls on a Quilter's Life, you've already got this. That's the pattern I put up for you as the little flower purse or the floral purse last week. You've got it. It's all part of membership in that club. So that template that you've got in there, or if you're making your own, you can just increase or decrease the size to give you multiple sized bags. Really easy to do. So what I'm going to do now is use one of these panels as a template to cut out my lining pieces, and then I'm going to back both of the outside panels of my bag just with a really nice medium weight adhesive bag batting, and then we'll get it sewn up. I've jumped ahead and prepped my lining, but I'll come back and show you this in a minute because it's just a little bit different to the outer bag. I'll pop that aside. Now, I have backed both of my panels with a lightweight batting. So you know me, I love my soft and stable. You can have a close look up at this. This is a new one that we've just got in, and it's just a little bit softer. It's got a little bit more give in it. So I'm not going to get a super perky bag, but for what I'm going to use my bag for, that suits me fine. We now need to sew it up, and very, very simple again. If you look here at my bag pieces, we're going to sew, actually I'll pop them down for you here. You can have a good look. So we're going to sew down this side on both sides, or down the curves on both, and then we're going to sew across the bottom. So I'll pop this in. Don't know where my walking foot is, folks. It's missing in action. And I was hoping that the Australia Postman was going to deliver the new ones before I got to this bit, but that's all right. I have adjusted on my Bernina from a normal straight stitch into what the machine considers to be a quilting straight stitch. So it's adjusted the tension for me, and I think with this thinner batting I'll be able to get away with just using a normal foot. If, of course, you do have a walking foot though, please do put it on. I also did not talk at all about seam allowances, and that's because I'm making it up as I go. It doesn't matter what my seam allowance is if I'm just happy to run with the finished dimensions that I get out. I'm not following a pattern. I'm not having to make a whole heap of pieces meet. I'm designing as I go. So therefore, it's really easy and you just don't need to worry. As long as you keep them all constant with this particular technique, you'll be fine. So I'll whiz around both these sides. I haven't even pinned it, have I? So bad. So bad. I suppose if I had a lot more happening on the panels and they were pieced, if I had to match up a bow or a strip or a pattern from the front to the back, then I would. But I don't, and I think even more so that's why it's so nice to show you this really easy technique. You just don't want to have to think too much. If you do decide that you would really like to do a lot of quilting on your front and back panels, one little suggestion I would make: don't cut the panel down to size first. Make a template of your bag panel and then cut a piece of fabric for the front and back that's a generous size. Pop your batting on, quilt it to your heart's content, give it a good press, and then come back, lay your template over the top. You're probably only going to have half of it, so pop it on one side and flip it to the other for the mirror image till you've got the whole bag template. Do it then. Otherwise, if I was to take these and sit and have a lovely time free motion quilting around each of my flannel flowers, it's going to shrink down and distort the fabric just a little bit. So it's much better to cut a bigger bit, quilt it all first, and then cut it down to your template size. All right, so I have now got both of my sides done, and you can see I've done it in red for you, not in black as it should be, but in red, and you'll be able to see it on the lining a lot better too. So that's down both sides of my template. Now what we're going to do, sorry, my bag panels, now what we're going to do is sew right across this straight edge down the bottom. So there's no need for a seam allowance, you can start right on the edge. There we go. Okay, so we'll trim off these threads. Now I want to give you a close-up and show you what happens now. So see, I've got that little opening there. We're going to bring these together like that, and if you can, we're going to flatten out just those little seam allowances, and we will give in and use a pin, because I really want to line up the seam from the sides of the bag with the seam of the base of the bag, okay, like that. I'm going to sew straight across there. I'm going to add handles onto mine because of the size, but if you do a small one, maybe use a soft batting like this and then a really good sturdy interfacing on the lining where you're not going to see that stability and almost like that cardboardy effect with the lining, but use the lining to give you a really nice structure inside. If you do a small one, then maybe even a squatter one, they make the most beautiful little clutch bags. They really do. So if you've got a few girls in your life that love a little bag to take out just to pop their purse in or their phone, perfect. So we'll sew straight across this side. I know I have mentioned it to you before, but there are only 6 ways to make a handbag with fabric. I found a 7th and I added it into my little designer book, but it is all about molding with felt. But essentially there are only 6 ways to make a bag. So this little book here, you can grab this off the Chandler's Cottage website. It's just a little book for me with notes and descriptions on the 6 different ways to assemble a bag with some pictures of some examples and how to go about having a go at each one. But if you really like the idea of designing your own, please do not be scared. And if you're worried about using a good fabric, just go and buy some inexpensive calico or homespun, something from a sale in a patchwork shop, and have a play. The great thing about doing that, particularly if you use a plain light coloured fabric, is that you can make notes on your actual samples and keep them. So this is this one, you assemble it this way, it'd be great for using for this style bag. Make notes on different battings that might be suitable as you go, and just have your little test out samples to refer to. Because sometimes you need to design the bag around the fabric, not buy the bag pattern first and then find the fabric to match. Such a cool thing if you can actually do it the other way around. Or it might be that you've bought a beautiful decorative pair of handles and you need to work out how to make the bag to use them. A little bit by when you buy an expensive pair of shoes and you have to buy an entire outfit to match the shoes. Not that I've done that before, Kate. Maybe?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
Yeah. I've heard that a few times.
That day I was talking about, between when we filmed the cake and today, I bought shoes. Okay. So I've sewn across both those ends. You see that's across there. So we'll turn this one through and we can see what our bag is going to look like. Give it a good shake. There we are. So those little darts that we put in the base, there we go, have given me this nice space. Now I think I was right, let me tell you, because we did 2-inch darts. Now you're going to take off the seam allowance, and that has brought me down to, yeah, that's about a 4-inch wide base. That'd be the phone. We are at the shop. Alright, so I've got my curves up the side. I need to shape this out just a little bit more, but you can see what that's going to look like. Now I need to repeat that process for the lining. I have got that to go already, so we'll set that aside. The one thing I just wanted to show you with the lining, please don't forget to leave yourself an opening in that straight base seam, because you're going to need it to turn your bag right side out. The way that I like to always put my bag outer together with the lining is to turn the outer bag inside out. Do you know, Miss Kate, I may not use flash handles on this one. I might actually do a strap because it's a softer bag. We'll have a look in a minute. So the outside of your bag inside out, and I'm just going to put this table up a bit higher for you. Oh, Kate's going to put it up so that you can see. No, down, up, down. That's it. I'm going to get it the right way around. There we go. Now you can see it a bit better. So lining right side out. I'm going to pop that in here. I still need to add my flap in. So I'm just going to pin these at the side seams for now to hold it in place. I mean, really though, so easy. The one thing I never do, and I've always wanted to do it with this shape, probably more than all of the others, is just grab all of the scraps off my sewing room floor and sew them together in strips to make my outer panels. Just almost like a little time capsule, one day to capture whatever I was working on within that week. So you go to the floor, it's not that bad here today, but on other days it is, and just look at the floor and go, yep, they are all the fabrics at that moment in my life that I designed or I'm working with or that I'd bought, and cut them all into strips and do a really funky strippy bag. So you'd sew them all together, put the batting on, give it a quilt, put the template over the top. It'd be just fun.
I would like that.
You'd like that? And we'd use it just to store stuff.
Even if you made it a satchel.
Yeah.
I would be your
so we should do
walking
that.
model.
Let's do that for Craft and Cook Show. We'll do a time capsule bag.
That's cool.
We could put some funky pin. Oh, I've got it now. I've got it. Braids, pin tucks, whatever's on the floor. I'm going to collect them all in a basket for a couple more weeks.
That'd be cool.
We'll do that. All right. That's the top. So now I have to make a flap, because I really want a flap on this bag. Because of the black, I've chosen to go with the plain black for my flap. So we'll get this out. Kate's given me this overhead camera now, and I'm really worried she's going to get the editing wrong, and at some point you're going to be looking up my nose while I'm looking up and checking that the camera's in the right spot with the fabric. There we go. Now, where's my plate? And we will grab a chalk pencil because it's dark and draw it up. So with my plate ready to draw, we just need to go back and check how wide we can make our flap, because it's got to sit in between our seams. So let me come down, let's see. If I go up there, it's going to leave me with about 1/2 inch on either side. 1/2 inch is really good. You need a little bit of movement. If you make it completely flush with your side seams, and keep doing the iron so it doesn't beat, it's not going to come over nicely and just plop down for you. It's going to get caught. So I'm going to leave about, about there. About 1/2 inch between where my plate for my flap shape finishes and those sewn side seams. So if I pull that away, and they look pretty even, I'm going to draw that round like that. So I'm going to have this big lovely flap on the front of my bag, The back of my bag, of course, is going to be plain. I think this will come in a little bit. I'm not going to worry about adding a seam allowance, so you can see when I actually sew, that's going to come in a little bit. I have been very, very extravagant with my fabric. I should have done it near the edge of the black, but never mind. I'll pop some pins in just to hold it all together. Again, because I've got two thicknesses here, and I just want to be able to quickly cut around there. As you go, if you really do like the way that your bag is coming up, and it's not going to end up just holding your scarves or your odd socks in the bottom of the wardrobe, because that's kind of where we delegate those ones, isn't it? If you are really happy with how it's going, just take the time to stop as you go and make a copy of the shapes so that you can use it again, or possibly use it again. Make some notes on what you do next time. Keep them in your own little handbag design book. I know I've left some note pages up the back of my little book, but you're probably going to use way more than that. So I like to have one book for my bag designing notes. I have another one for stitches and threads for projects on my banana, all those sorts of things. Okay, when I get to there, I can come through and cut that with a ruler so it's straight. There we go. So pop that aside, just to give us a little sneak preview. There we are. That's going to be the flap on our bag. All right, I'm going to quickly back this with some more batting, and then we'll be able to get it organised and turn it through and pop it into the bag. Okay, here we go. I've got my flap ready. So I'll give you a close up. We've got two pieces of black sewn together with the top straight edge left open, and one of those pieces I have backed with batting. And I will make sure that that side that's got the batting on it will face the outside of my bag, because it's just nicer if you've got the padded one facing outwards. So I need to take this guy here and insert him between the lining and the outer bag. Now if you do have a front and back, what am I doing? If you do have a front and back of your bag, you would just need to make sure that you're inserting this on the right side. You know what, after telling you all of that, still got it the wrong way around. Let's put that in again. There we are. So it needs to be centered, okay, between both your seams. Get a ruler, do it properly, please, please pin it. Don't do as I am, do as I say. There we go. So now it's sandwiched in and I've aligned all of the raw edges. I will pop some pins through here. If you're using super thick bag batting, like a Soft and Stable, something like that, instead of using pins, you might like to use some of those little clips. They work equally well at this stage. And as I mentioned earlier, if you've got your walking foot and it's not missing in action like mine, pop it on for this final step. If you've got a dual feed, a banana, 570 or a 770, lucky you, and also you would get away with your dual feed engaged for this last step, because I haven't got a lot of piecing going on. They're just plain fabrics together. But if you've got a lot of action and some seams going on around the top of your bag, then yes, do put your walking foot on. So I'll just pin this around here. Then we will take the sewing platform off the machine. You know, one of the other lovely things for me about doing bags is I never have to say to anyone the throat width on your sewing machine is not big enough. So you know, when you're doing quilts and you go, I can't get that through my machine, it doesn't matter with bags, because you're always sort of sewing on the outside, on the arm of your machine. So you're not limited in any way by the throat width. Okay, so we'll pop this underneath here, and we're just going to whiz around the top, and that's also then on the other side of the bag going to take in our flap. So, once we get this flap on, we're going to talk about what to put on our flap. Of course, you could have used a different patterned fabric, or I have gone for a pattern print for the body of my bag and a plain flap. But you can change that round and have quite a simple fabric for the actual body of the bag, and then fussy cut from a feature print for your flap. But the flap also gives you a lot of opportunities to get really creative and put your own stamp on as you like. If you've got a stash of amazing charms or buttons, or perhaps bought some motifs or things, then this is where you put them. If you have a fetish and a machine embroidery module, then of course it's a great place to showcase some beautiful stitched out machine embroidery. If you love doing hand embroidery, well, then this is perfect. And I've just thought about it. Miss Kate, did you know Margaret Upston is doing her series of Australian stitcheries at the moment? Oh, like this bag. Like this bag. Give you the close-up. Oh, look at that. So can you imagine that on a flap on the front of a bag with wattle? But Margaret is doing her flannel flower at the moment, so I would be able to have my flannel flower fabric and then a flannel flower stitchery on the flap, which would just be gorgeous. The other thing too, the size that I've popped in A Quilter's Life, it's a little small clutch bag, and I think I mentioned on that as well, it's the perfect place to put your grandmother's brooch. So if you have a special brooch that you don't wear of your own anymore, your mum's or your grandmother's, then make a little bag in silk and pop that special brooch on the flap. We don't all wear brooches anymore, but it's nice to use them. Okay, we now need to turn this through and see if Lisa can sew all her seams in at the same time as talking. And let's hope I've left the hole small enough to turn the whole bag through. Open all this out. Aha, so we can start to see our flap. Now, I was also thinking just before, I'm not 100% sure on what I'm going to do about a strap yet. I've actually got some new straps in, so I very well may have a play with those, and they will stitch on to the outside of the bag. Done. Now, let me move the sewing machine, because I want to just give this a quick press, and then I'll pop some little bit of stuffing inside it, and we can look at the finished product and how to embellish the flap. Right, bag is pressed, and I have put some stuffing inside so that it sits nicely to show you. It does need a little bit more of a starch, and look, given my time again, this size bag's probably a little bit big for that soft batting, but live and learn, it would have been fine for a little one. But you know what? I'm going to love it. I'm going to use it. It's going to be great. So now that it's together and I've got my flap on, what are we going to do about embellishing this flap? Well, for me, because I've got my flannel flower fabric, I can't help but come through and pop on a 3D flannel flower. If you go back through Craft and Cook, I think we did 3D flowers in the second show. It's got purple on it. There's a picture of Ginny the cat. Pretty sure that's my purple tote bag. There's a leftover show with a lot into it, but it's going to show you how to make 3D petals, and I will pop a pattern for this little guy on A Quilter's Life as well, with the pattern there for the club members. Okay, there you go. Now, handles. So if I had this a little bit sturdy with a press stud, I could actually carry that literally like a clutch if I wanted to, maybe a bit smaller, but you get the drift. I could also make my flap a little bit narrower, and I'd have room to put some straps in for front and back, or I could put a strap on either side. Again, all options, but for me, I've got these great sew-on black leather ones, so I'm going to have these sewn on either side, and you can probably see this better on the back. Turn that round, and they're going to go on there, so I'm going to have a strap front and back for my bag. That, for us to film, took how long, Kate? Not long? Few edits? It took us an hour. Come on, an hour. If it was an hour for us to film, it's going to take you an hour to an hour and a half to make a bag. That is no time at all. It's a really, really easy pattern. You can design it as you go. Please do and have a go, and then next time we're going to have a talk about how to do some quilting. All right, so thanks very much. I really hope you enjoy the pecan apple crumble cake and you have a go at making one. The recipe will be up on A Quilter's Life, or you can follow along on the show. All right, thanks very much, and bye.